there are a lot of things I want to do in my life before I leave this earth. And I think we all have this sense of accomplishment that there's certain things that we want to either achieve or experience before we go. This adventure. And we don't want life just to be I wake up every morning, I go to work, I come home, and I do it all over again. I think that we each have within us certain things that we just want to experience. I mean, for some of us, it could be jumping out of an airplane, or it could be climbing Mount Everest, or it could be something as simple as just zip lining through a forest. I mean, for me, for example, I want to go to Alaska. I want to just go out and hike out in the wilderness, and I want to camp underneath the stars. I want to see more stars than I even know is possible. I want to see the northern lights. I want to have these experiences. I want to hike the Pacific Coast Trail and just camp and hike out there, or the Appalachian Trail. There's all these things that I want to get out and I want to do. And I think we all have that, right? I mean, think about your life. Think about where you are today and the things that you want to experience before you leave this earth, before you pass away. There's a lot of people who just leave with a lot of regret. They wanted to be a better husband, a better wife, a better father, a better mother. They wanted to have these relationships with people, or they wanted to go do these things that they never got to do. And some of that is just the fact they chose not to. They chose work over family, or they chose these certain decisions in life that led them one way or the other. And we have to live with those when we choose them. But what is it for you that you want to do before you leave this earth, before you pass away? Think about that. It's unique for each person, but for each person I think it's the same. You know, yesterday I talked about the four mega needs of every human being out there: identity, acceptance, purpose, and security. And the purpose piece of that, what is our purpose? What are we doing here? Why are we here? Some of that void we try to fill with some of these things. And Jesus, when he lived his life, he knew exactly who he was, and he knew exactly his purpose. I mean, we're on day 5 of the 8 days of Easter, and we're about to open up and talk about the last night of Jesus' life. Jesus is about to go to the cross. He's about to die. And his last night, he's going to spend with 12 guys that he loves with all his heart. We call it the Last Supper. It was the Passover for them, the Passover meal for them. And in that, Jesus just he spends some very intimate time with these guys, and you can just feel the passion that he has for these 12 guys. So if we're in John 13 still. Last night, we talked about Judas betraying Jesus. And in doing that, we were in John 13, starting in verse 21. And what that was, how are we betraying Jesus with our own life? Then we've talked about through this entire series, Palm Sunday, which procession would we pick? Monday, the perfume. What are these things in our life that we're not laying at the feet of Jesus that he's asking us to lay there? Or Tuesday, with the wheat, are we dying? Are we killing ourselves spiritually and following Jesus so we can bear that spiritual fruit? And then yesterday, with the 2 silver coins and the betrayal, are there things that are in our life that we are betraying Jesus with because we just can't let him go, or we're selling out because we're trying to use our own logic or our own understanding? And tonight, man, we're gonna read in John 13. So if you've got your Bibles, grab them, go to John 13, and we're gonna look at this intimate moment that Jesus has with his disciples. It's in John 13. It's going to start in verse 1. Before the Passover festival, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Now when it was time for supper, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him. And Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, and that he had come from God, and that he was going back to God. So he got up from supper, laid aside his outer clothing, took a towel, and tied it around himself. Next, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet and to dry them with a towel tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who asked him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" And Jesus answered him, "What I'm doing you don't realize now, but afterward you will understand." "You will never wash my feet," Peter said. And Jesus replied, "If I don't wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." One who has bathed, Jesus told him, doesn't need to wash anything except his feet, but he is completely clean. You are clean, but not all of you, for he knew who would betray him. This is why he said, not all of you are clean. When Jesus had finished washing their feet and put on his outer clothing, he reclined again and said to them, "Do you know what I have done for you? You called me teacher and Lord, and you are speaking rightly, since that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example that you also should do just as I have done for you. Truly I tell you, a servant is not greater than his master, and a messenger is not greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." I mean, can you just sense this intimate moment as Jesus just he gets up from the table, he wraps a cloth in your Easter basket. There's a towel in there. This is actually for a dual purpose, but tonight it's just a plain white towel, and he wraps this around his body, and he just begins washing his disciples' feet. And his disciples just look at him in shock and awe, wondering, "Jesus, what are you doing? We should be doing this to you, Jesus." And Jesus says, "Look, now you're clean. This is what I've done for you. And since I've done this for you, you should do this for others. I'm giving you an example." And it's this intimate moment in Jesus' life. He's about to leave this place. He's about to go to the garden. He's about to start praying. And he's about to be betrayed by Judas. And he's going to be taken. He's going to be beaten. He's going to be put on a cross. And he knows all this. He knows this. And in his last night, Jesus wanted to spend it with those he loved, with his disciples. And I sit here and I can tell you, man, I want to go to Alaska. I want to go to Yellowstone. I want to go to all these parks. I just want to get out and see some things. And Jesus, in his last night, before he died, none of that was on his mind. His mind was on you. His mind was on me. His mind was on the entire world that he was about to give his life for. The night before Jesus died, it wasn't about him. He wasn't trying to do some adventure or some exotic getaway or some experience. Jesus, before he died, he washed feet. That's what he did. That's who he was. Jesus, fully man, fully God, washed his disciples' feet to show us how to serve others. And don't get me wrong, those things that we have, those admirations that we have before we die are all good. Absolutely good. But we think about our purpose in life. Is it to just do those things? Or is it to serve other people? And we have such an amazing opportunity in the world we live in today with this virus that's going around, and a lot of people are at home and have to stay home. There's an amazing opportunity right now for the church to rise up and serve, to show the world the love of Jesus. to be the heart, the hands, and the feet of Jesus. And that is all He is asking us in His Word, is to step up and wash their feet. And I'm not saying it's the easiest thing to do. And I'm not saying it's the most glamorous thing to do. But I'm saying as we prepare our hearts for Easter, for what's about to happen in just a few days on Resurrection Sunday, as we celebrate that day, as we prepare our hearts, are we preparing it with a servant heart or a selfish heart? And I pray today that as you pray to God and you just ask Him to prepare your heart for what's coming, that you pray, God, give me a servant heart and allow me to help grow your kingdom.